Welcome to I believe it's part 21 today of the 2023 NFL Draft and Review. Today we're going to be looking at the Minnesota Vikings. But before we begin, I want to address the message that I put up yesterday, and that regards the Washington Commanders draft class. I recorded a video. It was about 25 minutes long, but when I went to put it up, I noticed that my microphone had been turned off, and thus I had no sound. So I was unable to post that video. The Commanders ended up getting about a B- on their grade because, well, this class does look good. It's one of those kind of 50-50 classes that it's not guaranteed potential if things go right. This is a fantastic class. If things don't go very well, it's a horrible class. Thus, I have a feeling it'll be one of those kind of in-between, comes out with some good, some bad. And you could say this is true for any draft class, but I do hold that there are some draft classes that they look like they got more apparent talent, so they look better overall. So that's where this stood. I figured that they could get some substantial value out of Forbes, Martin, Stromberg, and Daniels over time. Henry and Jones are mostly for depth, and Rodriguez, it kind of depends, because I heard Antonio Gibson wants to play wide out instead of running back this coming season, so we'll see what goes on there. But overall, yeah, about a B- class. So now we'll move over to the Minnesota Vikings. And my initial impression of this is, as I've said a few times through this draft, the Vikings are picking like a team that thinks they're better than they are. There's not a lot of really going and pursuing needs, I guess you might say. So it's one of those sorts of things for me. So their first selection, they got wide receiver Jordan Addison. Now, a few Vikings fans I know kind of flipped out on this pick, and I can see why. Looking at the Vikings roster, their secondary is Swiss cheese with how many holes in it there are. I don't really think their defense is going to be that much better this year. So getting a receiver in the first round does kind of not make sense, but you do have to remember they did lose Adam Thielen in free agency, so they do need a number 2 guy, and I'm not really sure that a guy like KJ Osborne could quite have stepped into that role. So taking Addison allows them to hopefully maintain the sort of team they were running. You could obviously argue just give Hawkinson more work, but some teams like to do things a certain way, so go back to Addison. The one thing I do notice is that between the second and third year, at Pittsburgh, he looked like he was a lot more used, 1,500 yards, 17 touchdowns, than USC, a substantially weaker conference. He did so much worse, but like I said, he's not supposed to be a number 1 guy, so we'll see what else.
Pickett wants to throw. This is a deep ball. In stride. It's Addison. Addison to the end zone. Touchdown.
Make plays. Why not? Why not get him this experience in a game like this? And we see Pickett still going deep.
Deep one. Addison's got it.
Pressure. Pickett back foot throw. Touchdown, Addison. And there it is. USC has the lead.
Here's Pickett now again, throwing to the goal line. And a touchdown for the...
Well, Addison going on mortal here, number 35. 35 has to recover and get back in the...
The throw is wide open. Jordan Addison, a bust again. And
Pickett on 4th and 4. Got away from one man. Into the back of the end zone. Wide open touchdown.
Caleb Williams again. Winds up. Lets it go. Caught.
They'll give him a chance to throw it. And coming back to make the catch is Addison. And he's off to the races. Jordan Addison.
It would fit into the recruiting profile. Easier to get the edge guys. He's got a big shot up there. It's Addison again. Can he stay on his feet?
actually want to see if I can find something real quick. Let's see here. Yeah, about a 4.5 40-yard dash. So that does explain a lot. He's quick enough to get open, but I don't think he's going to be quite doing that in the NFL. I think they're going to try and get this guy to start doing a little more route running. So I'm not really sure how well he's going to do in his first season. We might see Justin Jefferson almost push 2,000 yards receiving here because he's pretty much going to be the only proven target on this team aside from TJ Hawkinson. Obviously, KJ Osborne's here, but do you really want to put the ball in Osborne's hands all the time? That'll get defenses to focus up, and you don't really want that to happen to a number 2, number 3 sort of guy. So, the next selection is cornerback Mekhi Blackman. Another player out of USC, as this team pretty much just picked out of USC and LSU this year. Again, as I always say, I don't know what these defensive coaches are teaching these guys, but Jesus Christ. Can someone figure out how to make a catch? So, but overall, these numbers here, 41 tackles in 8 games, 66 tackles over 14 games, that's a little high-ish, I would say. So that suggests that he's getting beaten a good amount of times these last 2 years. So I'm not really sure what to make of that. But the Vikings desperately need help in the secondary. They need Blackman to do something because they don't really have anybody who's
a shot that
I would say particularly good.
slowing down again. That slow mesh got slowed down.
Way to take away the slow mesh. Slow mesh, he gives it. Safeties are back.
Takes it the 47 of Oregon State. And again, Nolan taking a shot for Lindsey. And that is picked. What a...
Look right there, but how about the catch there?
Overthrown, but if he misses that ball, that's defensive holding.
Mekhi Blackman, Ted, I really...
McKee, slow mesh, little flip, batted into the air. Another interception. It's picked up by Mekhi Blackman, and Blackman stops the threat.
9, Thompson Robinson with time.
Sideline picked off. Blackman out of bounds. Been able to control the ball some.
They go empty for Rising. He throws sideline and nearly a 1
from Colorado does not come down with it. Here is good zone coverage. Here's eyes to the backfield. I think he missed. He puts 2 paws up.
That needs to be caught.
Of the season for SC as it is.
On 14 carries, it's a very healthy average. Adding to the total, ball came out. It's loose. Trojans say they've got it. He put it on the ground. Spears was approaching 200 yards rushing. Yeah, just had that ball knocked out by Mekhi Blackman. That's why he was all Pac-12 on 3rd and 1. One time, Rising heaves it to the end zone and batted away by Blackman.
Mekhi Blackman's been doing it for a long time. 6 years of college experience. He's 6 foot tall. He's given up 5 inches, and he knows the only chance.
Defensive line is bearing down on him. Rising to throw, and how about the coverage from you? That's where Bador is going.
I think if Blackman had a veteran presence on this team, that he would probably be better sooner. But unfortunately, the Vikings' veteran presence is pretty much Byron Murphy. So I think that he's probably going to get forced into the spotlight very early on, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to hang as a rookie, and I'm not sure how he'll develop. So this is kind of one of those wait-and-see selections, and if you're a Vikings fan, hope for the best, because that secondary needs it. So next up, we have safety Jay Ward, the first of the 2 LSU selections. This is another spot where the Vikings are pretty light, and holy shit, that production on tackles is horrible for someone playing safety. Okay, so we'll go down here, and it says that, you know, take it with a grain of salt. It's only Wikipedia. They don't necessarily know everything. You know, but they list him at free safety, so that means that he's in competition with Cameron Bynum and Lewis Sine. Bynum is clearly a backup. Sine was injured last year, so I'd obviously lean in favor of last year's first-round selection being the starter here, but not necessarily depending on how things go. So it's not a 50-50, but I'd still think that it's possible that we end up seeing this guy in some capacity. So, like I said, this tackle production is not good. Barely, not even 30 tackles on 8 games played. That is atrocious. It did go up by 40 the next year, but then it went down by 10 more. This guy does not seem to be very active in getting tackles, and it does say that they moved him around positions, so that kind of makes sense, but if you're going to be playing safety, you still got to do better than that. So, interceptions-wise, just kind of continuously goes down. Pass deflections are about even.
He held up to. That is intercepted. And that's Jay Ward.
Throw for it, back pedals and delivers incomplete over the middle, threw it behind.
Attempt. He missed from 51 earlier. And that is blocked. Right off the left-hand side as Jay Ward, full extension, and gets a hand on it. The Warhawks to the sideline. Intercepted. Jay Ward down the sideline. And it's a big six.
Out on the hash, and Red Rodriguez simply has to account for him. You have
Anthony Richardson back in, and he throws an interception. Picked off by Jay Ward. And Ward brings it back.
They're tracking him down. They're pulling him down to the ground. He
That was
makes
a bad throw.
Decision, and once
Very
again,
bad throw.
LSU is going to be able to capitalize on great field position. The receiver.
Out of the backfield this time is Price, and Price is torn down by Jay Ward. A tackle of rallying here.
LSU's defense doing a really good job of fighting off.
Happened at the end of this half. They played so well. Young. Protection breaks down. He threw it into traffic, and it's...
Okay, so I could see him playing, but I'm not sure if I'd call this a starter potential player. He's got a reasonably versatile skill set, which is good, but he doesn't really seem to stand out for me in really any one spot, so it's kind of just okay, but you know, one of those players of what else can you do? So, the next is defensive tackle Jacqueline Roy, and I'm a little concerned here because it says defensive end, and what they've got at defensive end here is nothing short of tragic. There are no pass rushers here, a lot of journeymen. I wouldn't consider any of these guys, top end starters. And obviously, someone on outside linebacker could probably shift over here, should actually be listed over here instead of over here. But still, just kind of putting a player that I don't really think has much of a chance off the bat as a potential top-level guy. So, Jacqueline Roy. And yeah, that's about what I expect for a guy playing defensive tackle, moving over to defensive line. And I don't really understand the 4th round selection here because, again, not really getting in on the run game and definitely not a pass rusher. So, what's the point here? This is the sort of pick that makes me defend Kirk Cousins. It's like, this is the defense the Vikings are putting out there, and do you want him to win you a Super Bowl? Patrick Mahomes wouldn't win you a Super Bowl with this. Are you crazy?
2nd and 10. Wigman. 3, but he can't escape the grasp of Roy.
Yeah, this is just gonna basically cherry pick the handful of plays that he did break through. That tells me that there's not much else to see with this player, so likely backup. Don't expect that to go anywhere. So the next selection is quarterback Jaron Hall out of BYU. And well, there is one Vikings fan I know that wanted a quarterback. Well, you got a quarterback. Unfortunately, you did not get a quarterback that's actually going to do anything. Now, he does put a pretty good stat line, but the last quarterback that came out of BYU was Zach Wilson. He put up a pretty good stat line, looked pretty good in college, and he was crap in the NFL because BYU is nowhere near the competition level of the NFL. So for this guy to be a fifth-round quarterback coming out of that college, I don't expect him to do anything, especially not well back up to Kirk Cousins, and he's going to have to fight for backup with Nick Mullins, who's already proven to be a reasonably tolerable backup in this league, so I would expect Jaron Hall is probably the third string. And I will continue a bit of a tangent here. Look at this roster. Look at it. And tell me how the fuck it is this guy's fault they're not winning. Go ahead. I'm all ears. I will die on this hill. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that has never been given a good team or a good coach. And just like Derek Carr, people expect him to win a Super Bowl without the faintest fucking lick of help. And you notice the closest he came was arguably that one really hype year with Washington. Admittedly, I thought the Vikings would have a chance last year, but their defense fucked that up. And people will say, well, he disappears in primetime games. Well, this, well, that. Yeah, quarterbacks are known to have those moments. Matt Stafford was one of those quarterbacks. People like forgetting that because he won a Super Bowl. But you know why Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl? He got himself to a team that was ready to win a Super Bowl instead of a perpetually failing shit show. Little things. Do I expect Derek Carr to do much better with the Saints? Hell no. The Saints won one Super Bowl with Drew Brees, and they did it by being one of the most scummy, cheating teams in the history of the NFL. And you can shoot back at the Patriots on that, I don't care. Injuring players is far, far fucking worse than taping signals and deflating a ball. And I will still hold the deflating a ball thing was bullshit. That was the NFL witch hunting us. But coming back to Kirk Cousins, like I said, he went from Washington, a team that didn't want to pay him, on top of not wanting to build around him, to the Vikings, who are basically doing what every team that never has a chance of winning shit does, and that is pay the quarterback to pull a Super Bowl win out of his ass with no help. The Colts did this to Andrew Luck. They did it to Peyton Manning too, and somehow he managed to pull it off once. The Saints did it to Drew Brees. The Raiders did it to Derek Carr. You can find endless examples of this throughout NFL's history of quarterbacks that have gotten absolutely horrendously disrespected because the team they were on decided that having them and paying them like a goddamn king was more important than actually building a team to win. This goes on the Vikings management and coaching. Period. There is no excuse for not being able to win with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. There is no excuse. So, here we go. Jaron Hall.
I can tell you, Utah Tech has other ideas. This is a team that's hot right now.
Hall throwing it to Puka Nacua on first down. A back
Big difference.
second down and 9. Hall to throw it. All kinds of time. Goes to Hill. And Keanu, did he get a foot down?
A pilgrim around. Very proud of Milwaukee to play out of American Samoa.
Hall
field to the goal line. Keanu Hill, touchdown!
The whistle's blown, you let up.
Takes the ball to the 41. Hall wants the deep throw down the middle for Roberts. Roberts has got it. Touchdown, BYU.
High level. He said his football IQ is off the charts.
Play action, Hall back to pass. Been waiting for Puka to make some noise here so far. Here's Hill making more noise.
Yeah. Even though it's all against one team, this is pretty much exactly what Zach Wilson was doing, just letting the receiver beat inferior competition. I'd actually be a little interested in these BYU receivers that are going to be coming into the NFL the next couple of years, because they were making quarterbacks like Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall look a lot fucking better than they actually were. So, like I said, this is your third string quarterback in Minnesota. Deal with it. Kirk Cousins is your quarterback. So, the next player up is their final selection, running back Dwayne McBride, and McBride pretty much has a wide open shot to be the backup, if not starting running back for this team. He's going to have to beat Alexander Mattison for the starting role, but there's virtually no competition for backup here, so I'll go over here and take a bit of a look at his chances. Okay, so 1,313 touchdowns, 1,719 touchdowns. That was two very good seasons, albeit in the Conference USA, running for UAB. But that suggests that we got something to watch here. So let's go.
McBride on first down. McBride breaking tackles across the 50. McBride out of bounds near.
Shored those things up this afternoon.
Running through more arm tackles. McBride inside the 15. It's still going. Touchdown,
bad tackle in there.
31 yards. You're not bringing him down with an arm tackle. Points. But a big hole left side. This one will end in the end zone. McBride has. He stumbles. Did he get across? He did. Touchdown, UAB. 3 drives and 3 touchdowns. The second of the day on the ground in this third quarter. There he goes. Right on cue. Dwayne McBride. Oh, he ran over his own man, Shropshire, and taken down at least one possession a half in each game. Dwayne McBride running through arm tackles.
Seems to have some pretty good burst to him, but again, pinch of salt. This is a bad conference that isn't at a very high competition level.
Hand off. Cutting it up. Nice drive. Getting free and getting into the end zone is Dwayne McBride. This bring a man in motion across the formation. They hand it to McBride. Coming near side. Keeps his feet. Breaking free. Finally chopped down near me.
Because of his competitiveness. Well, you see the competitiveness there.
And McBride gets the corner. McBride gets the end zone. And the Blazers are. One is far from over. Touchdown with 3:08 to go in the.
Can do a lot of different things.
Hand it off again. A little hesitation. Now some room to run and breaking free. McBride off to the races. Can they catch him? He's still on his feet. And
Zeno with the handoff. And again, it's McBride. Big play. Gets across midfield. He's still on his feet. It's a foot race. They're trying to catch him from behind.
McBride gets the call. And McBride.
Okay, he does seem like a guy that is hard to bring down. I will say that, but at the same time, it does look like a lot of that is aided by the programs that he was playing, not really being that very good at defense against the run game. So take it with a pinch of salt, but I expect this guy to be the backup. I expect we're probably going to see him at least a little bit this year, because I don't really expect Alexander Mattison to be a 3-down back for 17 games. I mean, let's check here. I think it does show the... Nope, doesn't show the amount of games. Okay. But overall point being, yeah, I don't expect Madison to be a 3-down, 17-game guy, so I expect we'll see McBride at some point throughout this season. And we'll see how he does then, because he does look like he's got good enough speed to do something if he gets into the open, and enough will to stay on his feet that he might be able to bowl over some smaller, defensive backs or linebackers at this level. But 7th-round running back, don't expect too much. Just, he could make a play here and there sort of guy. So I was going to bring it to the end of this class, and honestly, I'd give this maybe a D+. I don't really like this class very much. Addison is not a receiver I'd spend a first-round pick on. Blackman and Ward are pretty much going to get thrown off the deep end if things go wrong. Roy, even potentially playing, seems like a bad idea. Drafting a third-string quarterback, and you might get some value from McBride, but let's face it, most of the value is probably coming out of Addison and Blackman, and I don't see too much in these guys. They've got the potential, but the potential is not enough versus the Vikings' needs to make this a good class. This pretty much reinforces my belief that the Lions are going to stab the Vikings in the back and leave them bleeding in the gutter. This, I think, is going to be the Lions' division to lose this season unless Jordan Love is a freaking god among men. Or if the Bears come out of the blue, but I don't think that's happening either. So, like I said, this is just the sort of thing that costs the Vikings years at a time. And coming back to Kirk Cousins, your window's closing. The guy is 34. You know, the best quarterbacks can go to like 40. I don't doubt that Kirk Cousins probably can get to maybe at least 37, 38 before he starts to go down the drain. But time is ticking, basically. And the more classes you have like this, the more that clock bleeds away, the lower and lower that window falls. Eventually, you're going to be shit out of time, not have anything to show for it, and you're going to be right back where you were about 5 or so years ago when this team was basically just floundering in place, doing absolutely fucking nothing. And I hate to see it, because the Vikings are a team that I don't dislike. They're one of the teams in the NFC that I would love to see them win something, but this is why they don't. This is why they haven't been to the Super Bowl since the 70s. This is why they're probably not going to be to another Super Bowl till probably at least the 2040s. So yeah, like I said, about a D+ class for me. So that is going to do it for today's video. I have to check real quick to finish and see who finished second in this division last year, because this was a bit of a clusterfuck for who ended up second. Okay, so yeah, Detroit is going to be tomorrow. So, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell to see when I upload next. Follow me on Twitter if you like, and I will see you tomorrow for the 2023 Detroit Lions draft class.